This is called hanging a block. Rather than having to climb, I can set a block up high by throwing a line and then using another rigging rope. Now, there's a couple things you have to understand with this. The advantage is that you don't need to send a climber up in the tree. So this is like installing an anchor remotely from the ground. But there are some disadvantages too. So let's talk about the first obvious disadvantage is if you forget when it comes time to retrieve this thing, if you pull this red line out, then I've got just a block hanging up there, and then there's really no way to whip it down. And so a guy has to try to yank it out from this side, and then the whole thing's gonna come flying out and damage the block or hurt somebody. So that's one of the first disadvantages is it's a little complicated, and you just have to remember when it comes to retrieval, you gotta pull it down with both strands of the red line, okay? In this case, the red line. Now, another thing is you gotta pick a suitable termination knot to attach the block to, something that can take a tremendous amount of force without becoming so tight that it's impossible to untie. So I have like a double loop bowline or a bowline on a bite. That's what I'm using. There are other termination knots that you can use, but that's the one I chose. Next thing, so as I pull it up, I don't want to run out of rope, so I'm gonna hold on to this. You can tie that one side to the handle, and then it'll tend itself. The side going in from the bag will just kind of keep spooling out, and it goes up that pulley. Now I'm gonna get it pretty tight on that crotch, right around there, okay? And here's the next kind of disadvantage to this setup is it requires not only some hardware to hoist with the red rope, but we also need hardware to anchor the other side of this rope, okay? And so for that, we have another porter wrap, and that's why I had Aaron tie that porter wrap below the GRCS. Okay, so now I'm gonna tighten this up and lock it off. Now, if you don't have another porter wrap, what do you think you could use instead? What could you do? We could base tie it, right? We could wrap the whole trunk with this yellow rope, and we could base tie it to itself. But a porter wrap is a little bit easier, so that's why we chose that. All right, now, red's gonna be on this GRCS, and now we have a nice pulley. But here's the last thing I need to talk about. When we're installing a block like this, when we're hanging a block, it's putting a force multiplication on the crotch that we don't have if a climber were to just hitch it to the trunk, okay? This is 2-to-1 power on the block. So if I hitch up to 100-pound weight and I lift it in the air, then this strand is holding 100 pounds, and then this strand is also holding 100 pounds to lift the 100-pound weight in the air. So now how many pounds do I have on the block? I have 200 pounds on the block. But now we have another line here. So what is this strand experiencing? 100, 200. So then that side of the yellow rope is experiencing 200, and then this side of the yellow rope is experiencing 200, minus friction, which means that we have 4 times the force on the crotch of the tree, minus friction, okay? Friction takes away a little bit of that, but aside from that friction, you have 4 times your load than what you actually are rigging. So if I'm rigging that and that thing weighs 1,000 pounds, I'm potentially putting 4,000 pounds on the crotch. Whereas if I had just anchored the block straight to the tree, then I'd only have a 2 multiplication instead of a 4. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, this is a really strong crotch, so I'm not worried about it, but I'm just wanting y'all to know that if you choose to hang a block, don't overload your anchor system. That would be bad. All right, that's it.